Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, and I'm back to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. But not just any episode. Going based on the special intro you just saw, today we'll be looking at the first installment of the Casagrandes mini-arc from Season 4. For a long time, I was always on the fence when it came to reviewing this mini-arc, and my reasons will be explained during the video. However, after much consideration, and given the fact these episodes are categorically listed with Loud House Season 4 production codes, it's only fair that I review them like any other episode of the series. This video also marks the beginning of the end of my past episode retro reviews. Once I've reviewed the entire Casagrandes mini-arc, that's going to be a wrap for the retro collection. But before we get to that point, we first have to look at the episode that not only served as the beginning to both the Casagrandes mini-arc and the spinoff as a whole, but also as the official premiere of Season 4 of The Loud House. So without much further ado, let's get right into the first episode of the Casagrandes mini-arc. Today's episode is Friended. In this episode, Ronnie Anne meets a new girl named Sid, and when she finds out her family might be moving into the upstairs apartment at the Casagrandes apartment complex, she and her cousins work together to make sure Sid's family gets the apartment. I don't know how many times I've said this, but I'm going to say it again just for the record. As far as my headcanon is concerned, Friended is the unofficial yet official pilot episode of the Casagrandes spinoff. It's unofficial in the sense that it was produced and listed as the Season 4 premiere for The Loud House, but honestly, this episode has the look and atmosphere of the spinoff. As I've said a few times before, the vibes between a Loud House episode and a Casagrandes episode are very different despite both shows taking place in the same universe and being made by the same production company. Just compare Friended and the other Casagrande episodes with all the others from Season 4 and hopefully you'll see what I'm getting at. Hell, just watch Great Lakes Freakout and tell me if it comes off as more of a Loud House or Casagrandes episode. I would bet anything you would be picking the latter. In my opinion, all 9 Casagrande episodes from Season 4 should have been used for the first season of the spinoff. To be perfectly honest, that would have been a better way of reintroducing the Casagrande characters on a full-time basis. While I have nothing against the actual first episodes of Going Overboard and Walk Don't Run to begin the spinoff, they don't really feel like solid introductions to the characters or the series overall. Both episodes just feel like, well, just episodes. Unless you're already a fan of The Loud House and or the Casagrande family, neither episode does anything particularly noteworthy that gives you a reason to watch the next episode. This is especially true if you've never seen or heard of The Loud House before. Obviously, you'd have to watch The Loud House first to understand the spin-off, but that's why Friended should have been the official pilot to the Casagrandes. It not only does a great job of re-establishing the personalities of Ronnie Anne and her extended family in the Loud House universe, but it also sets up a status quo exclusive to the spin-off. By pretty much every metric, Sid and her family are spin-off exclusive characters. As far as I can remember, no one in the Chang family or any of the recurring spin-off characters have ever had an on-screen interaction with Lincoln or anyone from the main series in any official Loud House episode. One minor exception being Day of the Dad in Season 6. The first episodes of the spin-off pretty much dive right into the already well-defined status quo of the series, and it just doesn't have that typical pilot episode feeling in my opinion. Basically, you have to watch episodes from Seasons 2 and 3 of the main Loud House series to understand how Ronnie Anne got a spin-off, which is fair, and then you have to watch more Loud House episodes to understand the origins of a spin-off exclusive character. I know a lot of what I'm saying right now just sounds annoying and confusing, so I apologize for the rambling. It just seems nonsensical to establish the central status quo for the spin-off in the main Loud House series when I believe the spin-off could have done so on its own. Having Friended serve as the official pilot to the Casagrandes would have given the spin-off its own unique identity that you can't get from the Loud House. I get the whole idea of having a mini arc in the main series acting as a springboard for the spin-off, but like I said, the vibes between the two shows and what they offer to the audience are very different. If you want to watch episodes with characters living exclusively in Royal Woods, you watch The Loud House. If you want to watch episodes with characters living exclusively in Great Lake City, you watch the Casagrandes. An occasional crossover is never out of the question, but hey, a spinoff can't rely on its predecessor forever, and unless they want to continue living in the shadow of their predecessor, the Casagrandes have to stand on their own eventually. Friended was a good first step in making that happen. I just think it should have been the official pilot to the spinoff instead of the season premiere to the Loud House. Okay, I think I've aired my complaints and grievances long enough, so let's get to that review. First, I'll talk about the characters, and for the most part, I can't really find anything to complain about. Most of the central cast were presented very well as they were in their initial debut in Season 2 of The Loud House. Going based on the opening scene with the family around the breakfast table, you get another good impression of who everyone is, or who they will be moving forward into the spinoff. Hector is still a man who loves his gossip, Rosa is still the loving grandmother who enjoys taking care of her family, ranging anywhere from making sure everyone is well fed to helping them with their problems through superstitious rituals and home remedies, and CJ is still a kind and happy-go-lucky kid, just to name a few examples. Most of the adults in the family have little to no screen time, but we do learn Ronnie Anne's mother Maria and her father Arturo are divorced, with the latter working as a physician in South America. But the biggest standout member of the family is Ronnie Anne herself. Having spent a lot of time in the city, she's become more comfortable and familiar with her surroundings and has even developed a few friendships with several of the city's residents, like Bruno the hot dog vendor, a guy who would later go on to become another spin-off exclusive character. Suffice to say, she's well adapted to city life by this point and knows her way around. We also get another glimpse of her compassionate side during the breakfast scene, something that was first touched upon in the episode Shell Shock. So it's good to see the mature and maternal side of her character is still consistent even though she now lives with a bigger family. However, my pick for best character of the entire episode goes to Sid Chang. I don't know how many times I've said it, but she is, in my opinion, the best character of the entire spinoff. With how she was presented in this episode, you can't help but fall in love with her character, and rightly so. Her personality is so upbeat, her little quirks with animal noises was simply adorable, and the fact she had no hesitation in wanting to use Ronnie Anne's skateboard despite having no experience, at least not yet, just to make a good impression was pretty cool. I mean, that's incredible right there. She just moved to a big city like Great Lakes, and yet she casually walks up to some girl she doesn't even know and makes a fool of herself and doesn't even feel awkward about what she's doing and simply shrugs off whatever embarrassment she just put herself through. Doing all of that just to make a new friend is, like I said, incredible. She's just a sweet character overall, and you really want to learn more about her. We also learn a little bit about her family and what her parents do for a living, and I'm actually impressed the show got Melissa Joan Hart to voice Mrs. Chang. Major W right there. But yes, seeing Ronnie Anne and Sid form a friendship right from the get-go, and their many scenes together were some of the best highlights. It was a decent and genuine starting point for their many adventures yet to come. Of course, their first adventure together was making sure the Chang family got the vacant apartment at the Casagrandes apartment complex, so now would be a good time to talk about the story. The basic premise is that Rosa, the building manager, needs to get tenants for their upstairs apartment, and Ronnie Anne finds out Sid's family is interested in renting it out. Because the Casagrandes love the Changs and the individual benefits each family member can receive if the Changs move in, Ronnie Anne and her cousins try to prevent other people from getting the apartment. They go around the city taking down flyers and scaring away the other potential tenants by any means necessary, and it looked as though the Changs were going to get the apartment. In terms of advantages in the long run, this plan and potential living arrangement was very sensible. No one would have to travel very far to do the fun things each of the Casagrandes wanted to do with their new neighbors. For example, if the Changs needed a babysitter at a moment's notice, they could immediately turn to Carlota in the apartment just beneath them. However, the plan hits a snag when Mr. Scully, the apartment landlord, wants Rosa to show the empty apartment to two of his friends. Knowing Mr. Scully would most likely give the space to his friends instead of the Changs, Ronnie Anne, her cousins, and Sid work together to make sure the Reynolds don't get the apartment. Carlota and Carl keep Rosa distracted while Ronnie Anne and Sid make the apartment look messy, broken, and very unpleasant both in appearance and odor. Ronnie Anne shows the Reynolds the apartment and they absolutely hate what they see and hear, including a traffic jam caused by Bobby and the sounds of CJ making a lot of noise dancing in the apartment just above them. As expected, the Reynolds take off running and decide against renting the apartment. However, this couple tells Mr. Scully about the apartment's poor living condition and the landlord assumes Rosa isn't taking good care of it. Because Rosa let Ronnie Anne give the Reynolds a tour of the apartment because she was tending to her grandchildren at the time, she had no idea what her boss was even talking about. Rosa was shocked to see the vacant apartment completely trashed when she already knew that's not how it was when she was showing it to the Changs earlier in the day. Rosa is about to be fired from her position as the apartment building manager, but that's when Ronnie Anne steps in and admits to being the one responsible for ruining the place. She explains she did it so she could be closer to her new best friend, and she makes amends by repairing the apartment apartment, which in turn allows Rosa to keep her job. One thing I didn't like about the ending was how Ronnie Anne was the only one to be punished and her cousins never faced any consequences for their involvement. I know they technically didn't trash the apartment, but they were complicit in making sure Rosa was too distracted to notice what Ronnie Anne and Sid were doing and not being available to give the Reynolds a proper tour. If Ronnie Anne tried to do everything alone, the plan would have failed and the Reynolds would have definitely gotten the apartment. However, the Reynolds didn't get the apartment after all. Instead, the Changs become the new tenants, and Mr. Scully explains that he was moved by what Ronnie Anne did, all for the sake of a best friend. He too got to live next door to his BFF when he was a kid, so he understood how special that can be. As much as I can appreciate the sentiment and how the landlord was able to find the Reynolds a different apartment in a different building so everyone could be happy, this was another part of the ending I didn't particularly like. Not to say that I flat out hated it, but the whole rewarding bad behavior and having your cake and eating it too thing never really sits right with me. Plus, Ronnie Anne, and none of her cousins for that matter, ever give the Reynolds an on-screen apology for their misdeeds. Yeah, maybe it was done off-screen at some point, but doing it face-to-face during the final scene would have been a lot more respectable in my book. Overall, for this being the first unofficial, yet official pilot for the spinoff, despite being listed as the Season 4 premiere of The Loud House, this was an excellent episode for getting a feel for what the Casagrandes are all about. The characters were handled very well for the most part, and the story was simple and effective in setting up the status quo for the spinoff. Even though the ending was disappointing, with Ronnie Anne being the only one to face any sort of punishment in the plan to sabotage the apartment while her cousins were pretty much left off the hook, she at least got her best friend to move in, so at a minimum, she got a happy ending. I don't know what else I can say about Sid other than she was the best character and everything she did was just awesome. It may not be a perfect introduction for a new character and new series, but for what it's worth, it does a great job of laying the groundwork for what is yet to come, and that's good enough for me. With that said, I give Friended a 9.6 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Friended. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.